good question. I mean, is he ever going to be the MVP of the league? I don't know. He could be. I mean, why? Statistics, right? We all look at numbers. Is Lamar Jackson, what's his ceiling? He was the MVP of the league. Is he the best thrower? No. Is he the most accurate passer? No. But he put up a ridiculous amount of yards and led his team to a division championship. I can see Jalen Hurts putting up a ridiculous amount of yards and leading his team to a division championship. Does that mean he's the best quarterback in the league? I'm not sure. I mean, there was a poll by executives and people yesterday, I'm sure you guys talked about. Yeah. Lamar Jackson didn't even crack the top 10, and it was like, how could that be?
Mac here with Young Birds 365 on the JAKIB YouTube channel. Appreciate you streaming on in. We also appreciate when this guy joins us. He does so every couple of weeks. We reach down to shore and say, we need Mike Gill's take on the Birds. Mr. Gill, how's the summer treating you?
The weather hasn't been all that great, Jody, to be honest with you.
Wow. Complaining about the high life down the shore. Well done, Mike Gill. Come on. We'd all love to be.
We had a washout on Saturday. Sunday was all right, but we haven't had like a
nice, solid.
What do you like? 98 degrees? Are you one of these guys who want to go out and boil?
No, my message would be if you are from the Pennsylvania area, there's no need to come down.
Yes, that is always my message.
Trying to keep those beaches manageable, huh? Gil, okay. I see where you're going.
Yeah, man.
I always talk to people like Mike and Dave Weinberg, guys who've lived down there for a long time. Do you get a little sad when, you know, it's time, it's the summer starts and the crowds come, especially as you get a little bit older?
Yeah, we love September, October, even now November is pretty good. June, July, August, man, it's a madhouse down here. Yeah. You can't do anything.
Hold on. Yeah. Tell me you don't have one of those coin finding machines.
No, but I actually, so for the first time, I've lived here my whole life. Now, my girlfriend's son, he's a lifeguard in Upper Township, which I didn't even know had a beach, which is Strathmere. So we went to the beach in Strathmere the other day, and I witnessed 2 guys of the 5 people on that beach that were using the metal detector.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't think people still use them. They're still
they're living in Strathmere.
Okay. Yeah. might say something about Strathmere.
The guy was down there. He was using that metal detector. I was like, man, I wonder if he found anything.
Gil, besides trying to dodge the crowded beaches down there, we're all getting prepped for the upcoming Eagles season. And John and I usually like to try and get a pulse of what the Eagle fans are thinking. We got all our streamers. We appreciate them jumping on here, giving us their comments. I field calls on my WIP show. You're fielding Eagle calls down on your show, the Sports Bash. The correct amount of optimism, surprisingly not enough optimism, way over the top optimism. How would you categorize, with 2 weeks to go before camp, Eagle fans' opinions on how good this football team is going to be?
You know, it's interesting where we are, which is, I would say, 75% Eagles fans. But we do have a lot of transplants down here because of the casinos. So with that, like most places, you get this infiltration of the Dallas fan. But we also have a lot of New York fans because of all the people who live down here because of the casinos. So I feel like there's a anticipation and the expectations. I actually asked this before, like, you know, most people I think are in that 10-11 win range. And I feel like that's not irrational. I mean, generally the Eagles fans will be irrational at times, you may notice, right? And I don't feel like there is that, well, this is the best team, they're going to win 13 games and they're going to win the Super Bowl. I do feel like it has been very, very rational so far. Now, once they get out on the field and on the 26th, and you start to get training camp updates of Hank Baskett catching a touchdown pass and going to be the next Terrell Owens, that might change some things. But as of right now, it seems that everything is kind of, you know, I think a lot of it is tied to the quarterback. I think everybody loves the roster, but they're not sure about the quarterback. And because of that, the expectations are kind of, well, they won 9 games last year. The team's better, so they could probably win 10 or 11. I think if they really ripped the Band-Aid off and trusted the quarterback, they'd probably be in that irrational stage. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah. If they had a proven, no doubt about it, top 10 quarterback, they would be at what is the highest? DEFCON level, I believe 1 is higher than 5. I always get
We're going plaid.
Yeah.
Well, Spaceball
they would be
Jody.
If Justin Herbert was here, for instance,
yes.
Forget about Aaron Rodgers. Oh, they'd be over the moon.
I agree.
They'd be getting the reservations ready for Los Angeles. Where's the Super Bowl? Arizona next year. Yeah, I think it's Glendale.
Where's it? Vegas.
I think it's Glendale coming up. Double check. I'll double check. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Derek Gunn here on JAKIB Media created a bit of a firestorm with a not a report. He was just talking off the cuff about a bad OTA practice Jalen Hurts had. AJ Brown went online to defend Jalen Hurts. You mentioned the Hank Basket catching passes at training camp. People get so hyped up about
Turner. I could have gone Paul Turner.
Paul Turner, one of the greatest hands I've ever seen. Yeah. Paul Turner. Why is not Paul Turner on the field? You know all this, Mike. Is Jalen Hurts? Here's the deal. Forget about the floor. We've seen the floor. This is a good player, not a great player, a good player. He made the playoffs. He led the team to the playoffs last season, Pro Bowl alternate. He proved he can play in this league. What is the ceiling in Mike Gill's mind? What is the ceiling for this player?
It's a good question. I mean, is he ever going to be the MVP of the league? I don't know. He could be. I mean, why? Statistics, right? We all look at numbers. Is Lamar Jackson, what's his ceiling? He was the MVP of the league. Is he the best thrower? No. Is he the most accurate passer? No. But he put up a ridiculous amount of yards and led his team to a division championship. I can see Jalen Hurts putting up a ridiculous amount of yards and leading his team to a division championship. Does that mean he's the best quarterback in the league? I'm not sure. I mean, there was a poll by executives and people yesterday, I'm sure you guys talked about. Yeah. Lamar Jackson didn't even crack the top 10. And it was like, how could that be? This guy was the MVP. He puts up yards and stats. Hurts is going to be one of those guys. I think your buddy Jeff Kerr, he tweeted out something yesterday. There's only one quarterback in the history of the NFL who's got over 4,000 yards passing and 2,000 yards rushing in less than 20 games. It's Jalen Hurts. He's the only one ever. So the ceiling is the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If you're a stats guy, he could compile a huge amount of stats. Now, is he going to be Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball? No. Patrick Mahomes? No. Is he going to be a guy that you can depend on in the crunch? That's the question. Can he make the big throw? Can he rip it on that third down? Can he put one in there? And I think that all remains to be seen, but I think his ceiling is, I hate to bring this up, but, you know, Tim Tebow won a lot of games. If you put him in the right system, he won games. I think if you put Hurts in a system that fits him, his ceiling is I can win a lot of games. I don't know if it's I can win a lot of games because of him, but I can win a lot of games with him doing with the ancillary pieces I give him. He won 9 games with what he had last year. How's that even possible?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this then before you jump in, Jody. What you just said, he can win a lot of games if you put the right pieces around him. Is that worth $35-40 million a year?
No, when you brought the Eagles are going to be. John, when you brought this up to me whenever I was on 6 months ago, I almost fell off the seat that I'm on here thinking about that. Like, wait a second. But this is everything. Dame Lillard's a great player. Is he worth $60 million for one season? Can I curse on this show? Bleep no.
Yeah.
You can't give a guy $60 million. He's great. Dame is amazing. He's never been to a finals. He's not an MVP. You can't pay that man $60 million. I don't care what the go. At some point, you have to make a rational decision and say, Dame, you're great. I can't pay you $60 million. We have to shake hands and that's where I'm at with like these mid-level quarterbacks. It's like, how do I pay this guy $35? Well, that's the going rate. Well, we need to change the going rate. Something has to happen.
Fair enough. And when you use Tim Tebow as a reference point. You're just talking about Tim Tebow, the college player, right? Not the pro player.
He made the playoffs in Denver.
He was in Denver. What did he go? He went like 7-1 on that run with Denver.
Yeah, he won a playoff game. I still don't know how he won a playoff game.
Finished his NFL career at 8-6. And for a first
he won more than he lost.
I believe your quote was won a lot of games. Career wins Tim
that
Tebow
season in Denver.
I'm sorry, that doesn't equate to me. The 8 does not get a lot of NFL wins.
Correct.
If it does for you, that's fine.
I mean, when they tailored that offense for him for that one run, he won. I think he was 7-1 in that run.
Yeah, he had a run. He had a nice run towards the playoffs. I don't know exactly what it is. Great college.
The problem is nobody wants to keep using that offense. That's what you can't keep running that offense for him. You ran it gimmick for whoever the quarterback before him was got hurt or stunk. Let's go to Tebow and see if he gives us a little spark. He did, but they created that whole offense for him. They couldn't keep using that offense. You're not going to win in this league like that long term. But my point was, if you create the offense, if you accentuate the positives, Paul Heyman, for the player, Jalen Hurts, he's going to put up a lot of yards. He's going to put up a lot of stats. And he's already shown he can win games with lesser talent. I mean, they won with Quez Watkins and Jalen Reagor as their top two of their top receivers. How do you win 9 games with that?
Quez is
unbelievable.
Quez is Tyler Boyd, evidently. I got Eagles fans all over. They think Quez Watkins. It's always interesting to me how fans latch on to certain players. Quez Watkins seems to be one of them. I'm like, what if the Eagles, the A.J. Brown deal was so important for the Eagles because of the domino effect. Like, we're all talking about how this is so weak, the wide receiver position leading into the draft. They got to go receiver again in the first round of the draft. They missed out on Ridley. They missed out on Kirk, Robinson, Woods. They got to go receiver again. All of a sudden, they get A.J. Brown and Pro Football Focus, top 5 receiving group. Because all the pieces fit into place. Devontae Smith, kind of a stretch early in his career to be a 1. Now he's a 2. Quez Watkins, no way he's a 2, but now he's a 3. That's okay. And all of a sudden, the pieces fall into place. Jody and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, tight end, Mike. Depth seems to be an issue at certain places with this team. Now, it's an issue everywhere, but there are some glaring depth issues on this team. When you look at that, it's the offseason. You got a hand wring about something. Have you started to wring those hands about the depth of this team a little bit?
I would agree at tight end. I think the offensive line has pretty good depth. Right?
Yeah, defensive line as well. Tremendous depth up front.
Right. Quarterback, I mean, you got probably the best backup you can find in Minshew. The linebacking room, I feel like there's 5 good players at that spot. No. The secondary depth, yes. You don't know anything about who. If somebody got hurt, who are you going to go to? McPherson, the kid they signed from Washington. That's probably a problem. And then the safety spot. I mean, you brought Tart in, so you would hope that he either challenges and wins one of those spots, or he's the third guy. So you have a little bit of depth in that spot. But where are they? Other than tight end, I agree. And corner,
I would say receiver. I would say receiver, tight end. I would say, receiver, and depending on Jalen Reagor, where are you going to go with Jalen Reagor? What is Jalen Reagor? But it's tough to find a 5th receiver if you're not going to move forward with Jalen Reagor. As you mentioned, corner. The Eagles talked about Tay Gowan and Kerry Vincent and Mac McCain nonstop. And they told you they were full of you-know-what, because as soon as Bradbury's out there, they go get Bradbury. That tells you they don't believe in the Zach McPherson of the world.
Thankfully.
Jaquiski Tart is brought in, as you mentioned. It's because they don't believe in Kayvon Wallace. Now they're telling us Grant Calcaterra and Jack Stoll at tight end. Come on. I mentioned that's the worst position depth-wise to me, tight end. But there are some other issues. Just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, well, and you would imagine now Calcaterra is a rookie. Who knows? I mean, he could come in and surprise us all, but he was a late round pick. Stoll's more of a blocking guy. Obviously, Richard Rodgers, it seems like they just kind of have him on. He's their Jordan Howard, right? They just kind of have him on speed dial. So, yeah, that would be one spot. The corner spot, obviously. And you're right about safety with Wallace. I think they're kind of – and he's in trouble because he doesn't play special teams. They got a Chaucheray and a guy that plays special teams. It probably makes it over him if you know.
Yeah. Let me ask you about the tight end position in Calcaterra. A lot of people said that if he had not had the injuries that he had, he stepped away from football, transferred, but then flashed the same kind of talent that he had at Oklahoma. If he stays healthy, and I know that's a big if with a guy who retired from football, collegiate football, because he was just afraid he had too many concussions. Could he be? See, that's where I think the Eagles have shown over the years, Howie Roseman shown, that he likes to protect his draft picks. I know it's just a sixth, but a sixth is a sixth. Is a sixth. And oh, by the way, the Eagles didn't even take all 7 picks this year because they moved up to get their defensive tackle and they traded off draft assets to get their superstar wide receiver. I think Calcaterra is going to be given every chance to be the tight end 2 on this team, especially if the Eagles are motivated to throw the ball more this year. That's all we've heard during the offseason is we're going to throw, we're going to throw, we're going to throw. Well, Grant Calcaterra is a guy who can catch. I think he's going to be the number 2 tight end on this team.
Oh, I agree. And, you know, they want to keep their and, you know, we heard so much about, well, if he didn't have the concussions and he hadn't retired, he may have been a guy that was a little bit of a higher draft pick in the 6th round. They always feel like, well, we found this guy and he was a higher pick. We had him higher on our board, but, you know, that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if Calcaterra – by the way, Calcaterra was a pretty darn good tight end when I think he was at Oklahoma with Hurts.
Oklahoma, yeah.
Right. And he was so they have a repertoire already and rapport there. So I wouldn't be surprised if he actually started the season. And again, as we said, you got Rodgers, you know, I'm sure he's going to be still sitting out there. So it's always nice to be able to have that safety blanket to make, hey, let's give this guy the shot to do it. So I would agree, Jody, that I think, and he's an intriguing prospect. He's one of them guys. How many times in this league do you find a tight end that no one's heard of really or followed their college career? They come into the league. This league's filled with guys like that you just never heard of. They're really athletic, and that projects much better at this level than it does in the college game. And they come in and, you know, their athleticism just absolutely shines at the NFL level more so at that position than it does in the college game. This league is filled with guys that most people didn't pay a lot of. How many people were watching George Kittle play in college and Darren Waller?
Nobody knew. Right? I remember when I told Eagles fans that George Kittle was better than Zach Ertz when Zach was still really good. I took a lot of heat, Mike Gill.
And by the way,
nobody apologized, by the way.
How many people followed Dallas Goedert or Zach Ertz in college? I mean, Zach Ertz was
Zach was the high-profile guy.
He was a second-round pick, but I'm sure a lot of people didn't look at him every week on Saturday and be like, wow, this guy's going to be a big-time pro. I mean, it's just a position in college. It's hard to project, you know, when you're watching them because the numbers for tight ends are just not that. They don't jump off the page at the college game.
Yeah. Milestones. I want to talk about milestones because the Eagles have had a really difficult time in recent seasons. Can't get a 1,000-yard rusher, can't get a 1,000-yard wide receiver. Zach did it at tight end a couple years ago. But no receiver since Jeremy Maclin. No edge rushers. Double-digit sacks. You got to go back to Connor Barwin in 2014. Wow. Do they get a 1,000-yard rusher? A lot of this is just health. 1,000-yard rusher, 1,000-yard receiver, 10-sack guy.
No on the rusher, yes on the receiver, yes on the sack guy. I actually think I wouldn't be surprised if Sweat was the one that got it.
Yeah, could be. Could be Josh. Josh is in – they have two options, you know, Hassan Reddick or Josh Sweat.
Yeah,
no, with Reddick.
Yeah, well, I just feel like Reddick might get more attention. This is one of those things where I don't know what kind of alignment they're going to have on the defensive front. They're going to do a 3-man, 4-man. You're going to see some 5-man fronts. And if that's the case, if Jordan Davis is getting half the snaps and he's taking up 2, does that mean you get one-on-ones on the outside? That kind of stuff. Are you going to play? I think, I don't know, John, do you get a sense that they're going to play more 3-man fronts?
I get a sense they're going to play more odd man fronts. So I think it's going to look to the average span as 5. They're going to have the JG calls them overhang players, and that's going to be Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat. They're going to have 3 interior linemen. So it depends how you look at it. Technically, that's a 3-4, but it'll look like a 5-man front. But I think they're going to be really multiple. I really do. You're going to see 4 men.
I think you're going to. One of the things that I'm waiting for is to see what the defensive line alignment is going to look like, and how that, does he have packages where he runs out a traditional 4-man? Hey, Fletcher and Javon, you two are 4-man. Let's get out there. Hey, we're going to go 5. Jordan, get out there between those 2. Hey, we're going to go 3. You guys come off the field. Jordan, you go to the nose.
They're going to play, and I'm pretty confident, and I've said this, and if they show up week 1 and I'm wrong, I'll show up week 1 and say I'm wrong. They're gonna play Vic Fangio's defense. That's what they're going to try to play. So for fans out there, if they want to get on Game Pass, watch some old Broncos, some old Chicago Bears, look at Brandon Staley with the Chargers. That's the defense they're going to run. So think Khalil Mack. That's the type of player they want, Hassan Reddick to be. Robert Quinn, somebody like that. Why think about who the Chargers acquired? Khalil Mack. There's a reason for that, because that's the defense they're running. The Eagles are going to try to run, and by the way, 40% of the league is trying to run Vic Fangio's defense. So it makes you wonder why people don't just go hire Vic Fangio, but maybe he just wants to take the year off.
Exactly. All right. You did mention a name there, Mr. Gill. You called Rich Rod the Jordan Howard of tight ends, which I like. Jordan Howard, still not an Eagle. Still not on anything, because he's not on anybody's roster. Is he just hanging at home doing burpees and getting ready for the season, waiting for his phone to ring? Do you think we'll see Jordan Howard once again coming back to the Eagles at some point this year?
Wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I don't think any other team's going to – he didn't get picked up last year when he was free. The Eagles brought him in. They put him on the practice squad, kept bringing him back and forth until they had to make a decision on him. For whatever reason, that's a position where it's almost feels like you have a comfort level with certain guys that have been in your system or in your region, and you just kind of keep going back to them, So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Howard, how much time is he going to cut into Miles Sanders, or, the theory that Sanders is on a contract, just, pedal to the metal with him because we don't have any intention of signing him back. The old DeMarco Murray thing, just give him as many carries as you can and let the next team pay him. That could be a way to go. Or do they like Gainwell enough to where we talked about this yesterday on our Football at 4, which was if Sanders, for whatever reason, gets out and struggles or just doesn't, a couple bonehead plays he had last year running out of bounds or doesn't hit the hole, do they start to infiltrate Gainwell more and, just say, hey, him and – because I'm a big fan of Boston Scott. I don't know why. Every time he gets an opportunity to play, he produces. And admittedly, it's against the Giants, it seems like every single but he always produces. He's just a tough guy to tackle and find. I mean, he always seems to, hey, when you're our guy this week, and he'll put up numbers. So you have those 3. I wouldn't think they would call Howard unless something happened to one of those guys.
Yeah, and he's always going to be there because, as Jody mentioned, nobody else wants Jordan Howard. I think, Mike Gill, Jody McDonald, John McMullen, we could probably get 4 yards per carry behind this offensive line. That's part of the success. I'm exaggerating, obviously. But last one for me, Mike, at Mike Gill Show on Twitter. Listen to him down the shore. Drive time, 2 to 6, 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey. Jalen Reagor, Andre Dillard. We're 2 weeks away, so they're both going to be here for the start of camp. That's pretty evident. Are they both going to be here at the end of camp?
I think Dillard will be. I mean, unless there's an injury and someone he has to call them, I think they like Dillard. And I wouldn't be surprised. You know, how many more years is Lane Johnson going to be around?
It's a good point. You know, post 30, you know, we know that the issues he's had off the field, those are a concern, obviously, but on the field, people forget he had, you know, reconstructive ankle surgery. And there's a guy who probably, Lane's one of those guys who, when he retires, I guarantee this, 2 years later, he's going to be like 240 pounds. And you're like, what happened? He's a 6'6" guy who used to be a quarterback who bulked up to play offensive line. He's going to come down. So the point I'm trying to make is he puts a lot of stress on a frame that probably shouldn't be that big, and he's already got a bad ankle. So it's worth pointing out that he's not going to be around forever.
Not only that, you just mentioned the ankle. He's missed games in each of the last couple seasons, 2 seasons, with injury. Not that Dillard would play the right side, but I think they're okay playing him at left and moving Jordan to play right. So I think they do like the safety net of Dillard. I don't think Rager's in the same boat. I think if they got an offer and somebody wanted him and, you know, hey, we need a second receiver, a third receiver, we'll give you X, Y, or Z for him, I wouldn't be shocked if he wasn't here. But I think they legitimately like the embarrassment of riches of having Dillard around, unless they got their socks knocked off. I don't know. What would their socks – what would be the threshold? A second, a third?
I would think they'd hold out for a day 2 pick, a third-round pick. But, you know, you are going to lose them. I mean, you're going to lose them. So, you know, at some point –
we all have memories of Dillard playing right tackle that night and just getting whipped and then admitting that he didn't want to play right tackle, which, you know, he needs to have a Alec Bohm moment where he says, hey, I messed up. I shouldn't have said that. I love playing wherever you want me to play. But we all know he can't play right tackle. But our memory of him is that one game. Whereas when he's played left tackle, he has been a solid contributor. Is he a Pro Bowler? Probably not. But if he played full-time left tackle, I don't think we would be our memory would be of what he did at right tackle that one game.
All right. Let me put it to both of you. Last question, Mike, you first. The Eagles have the option. Lane Johnson turns the ankle, whatever, he's going out. Is the Eagle offensive line going to be Mailata at left tackle and Driscoll at right tackle, or are they going to do what they did last year and move Mailata over to the right side and plug Dillard in?
I think they would move Mailata to the right side and put Dillard at left tackle.
John?
I think short term they just put Driscoll in. Long term, if it were a multi-week injury, they would move Mailata and put Dillard at left tackle.
I disagree. I think Driscoll 1 week.
Well, what's to say Driscoll's not playing right guard?
Be their right tackle.
What's to say Driscoll's not playing right guard?
Yeah, we've talked about this.
I'm sorry. I should have qualified that. Right. Thank you, Mike. Isaac Seumalo, if he's healthy, I think is their right guard. I don't think there's any question about that. If Seumalo is at right guard, then yes. If Driscoll's coming off the bench, one of the two have to be plugged into the lineup. Dillard and or Driscoll. I absolutely believe that's Driscoll, not Dillard.
It's great depth though, because, and I've mentioned this before, that I don't think they're going to cut Isaac either way, because I think they like his versatility. So even if he loses the job to Driscoll, who's to say if Driscoll doesn't get hurt, they move Driscoll to right tackle, they put Seumalo at right guard. They have an embarrassment of riches. They can go
and Dickerson doesn't have the cleanest bill of health either.
No,
so if he were to get hurt, Isaac is there to go play left guard, and so you're right. Their backup 5 would be a starting unit somewhere.
Oh yeah, it's just I say it all the time. It's an offensive line deficient league. I say Green Bay fans are the most spoiled fans, I always joke, in the history of mankind, because they don't know how the other half lives when it comes to quarterback. They've had Hall of Fame quarterback play uninterrupted for over a quarter century. Eagles fans don't know how the other half lives when it comes to the offensive line. There are so many teams in this league here that cannot block people, and Eagles fans don't realize that.
Here's a quick question for you guys to chew on. Aaron Rodgers is wildly regarded as the best, if not one of the best of all time, but the best right now. If he was the quarterback of the Eagles and had only won one Super Bowl, would we view him as high as he's viewed? Or would he be a disappointment because he only won one Super Bowl here?
I think he'd be a disappointment. I think people in Green Bay think he's a disappointment. I think, what, been too close to Packers fans for too long. They look at it that way. He's only got one.
Right.
I think it's national people who say, Aaron's, and I include myself, I say it all the time. I don't think anybody has ever played the position at a higher level than Aaron Rodgers. I don't say he's the greatest of all time because you have to put longevity in that. You have to put Super Bowls, and Tom Brady exists. But when he's at his optimum level, that's how he described it. I don't think anybody has ever played the position at a higher level. I think people in Green Bay get myopic and they say, we only got one. And I think Eagles fans would say the same thing.
I tend to agree. I think the fan, not that McNabb is Rodgers, but he was an ultimate failure because he didn't even, and they got to one Super Bowl. So if you had Aaron Rodgers and only won one Super Bowl, you'd be like, this guy only won one Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's the way it would be. Jody, your thoughts?
Agreed. Sometimes fans don't give the right amount of credit and or get caught up with a specific position or a specific guy. Howie Roseman. There are people that love Howie and people can't stand Howie, so they kind of get the glasses on and can't give what most of us would believe would be a fair observation. Mike Gill, always a pleasure, my friend. Get out there with your metal detector, since all the short people are coming down and making your life more difficult. At least make a couple bucks off it.
Get out there midweek. You got to stay in on the weekend, man. Too much. It's too much on the weekend.
Yeah, too much, man. As I said, the weather hasn't been good down here, people up there, so it's not worth the drive.
All right. Mike Gill, thank you very much. We'll get you back up in a couple of weeks once camp gets open. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Mike.